Hello, my name is Paul Gavin. For my final project for Comp 1, I chose to make Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech into a YouTube video and change the text to reflect what I think he would say today if he gave his I Have a Dream speech again, while trying to maintain his eloquence and style of speaking. You'll be hearing me speak, and all the things you hear which aren't found in the I Have a Dream speech are just my idea of what he might say. So, I hope you enjoy I Have a Dream in 2010. I am happy to join with you today with the joy in my heart. Almost 50 years ago, I gave a speech, the speech you all know as the I Have a Dream speech, where I spoke on the struggles of the Negro in that time. Now in the year of 2010, I have so much joy. I have so much joy because I see on the red hills of Georgia the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners sitting down together at the table of brotherhood. I have so much joy because we are slowly moving towards that nation where my children will not be judged by the color of their skin but by the content of their character. I am so joyful today because I have seen with my own eyes little black boys and black girls join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I am happy today because I am watching the seed of my dream grow into a lovely flower. But my people, though I smile at the success, I cry when I see some of the things that I see today. Years ago, when de jure segregation, that is to say lawful segregation, was abolished, the Negro took a much-needed sigh of relief. That sigh came as a joyous daybreak to the end of the long night of inferior treatment, but I cry because that sigh the Negro took has been constricted by the hands of silent discrimination. Even after so much time, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of implied segregation and the chains of unnoticed discrimination. After so much time, the Negro seems to live under a different standard. As I said in I Have a Dream, America once defaulted on its promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. And we refused to believe that the Bank of Justice was bankrupt. We refused to believe that there were insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we went to the Lincoln Memorial to cash our check. A check that would give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. And years ago, we were paid. Years ago, we were paid, but paid a partial of what is due to us. We have barely tasted the fruit of the tree of life before we were barred from the garden as though we had committed some sort of sin. And because of this, we have returned to this hallowed Lincoln Memorial to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 2010 is not an end, but a beginning. Those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted all of his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But there is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. Though we have been mistreated in the forms of dangerous living environments and an inferior education, though these two injustices, which can be traced back to the days of slavery, continue to persist against us, though we are almost helpless but to fall into a vicious cycle of poor education leading to a dim future, which leads our children to the same poor education only to lead them to the same dim future. Though we face these inexcusable injustices, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. And though we have not in previous times been judged by the content of our characters, let us ensure that the content of our character leaves nothing to be desired. Let us ensure that the content of our character reflects that which is deserving of respect. Let us treat our black brothers and white brothers, black sisters and white sisters with love and respect. And let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy, which has engulfed the Negro community, must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. They have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. As we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are, after so many years, still asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our children who serve as the next generation of the Negro attend schools whose locations imply the quality of education, whose teachers are underqualified. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are picked on for the color of their skin, criticized for speaking differently, and expected not to succeed. We cannot be satisfied as long as the national focus is to be colorblind instead of to love, embrace, and study color. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana, go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, people of different colors will embrace and love their differences. I have a dream that one day, even in the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day schools in Harlem and Compton will have the same unparalleled quality of education as the predominantly white schools. One day, right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers in the same safe and comfortable neighborhoods. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with a new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghanies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California, but not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And when this happens, when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city. We will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. As I worked on this, adding my own interpretations of the dream, the main thing that I noticed is that I didn't have very much to add, that the dream is not very different than it once was. Dr. King's dream is still yet to be achieved today, and I think we all have a lot of work to do, every one of us. Just food for thought. I hope you enjoyed I Have a Dream in 2010.